The story we have today in the gospel about Nicodemus coming to Jesus is referred to by Michael Curry, who is the Bishop of North Carolina and probably one of the best preachers in the Episcopal Church these days, as Nick at night. You've got Nicodemus coming to Jesus in the darkness of the night. And this may have been part of St. John's gospel theme of light and dark, but nevertheless, Nicodemus is coming to Jesus. And Nicodemus for us is something of a mysterious figure in the world at that time. We know he was a member of the Sanhedrin. He was one of the leaders of Judaism. He was on the ruling council, which meant he was probably extremely wealthy. He probably came from a lot of family wealth. He was probably highly educated as a rabbinic lawyer. And so he's coming to Jesus in the middle of the night to talk to Jesus about what it means to be born again. And is Jesus really the one who's come from God, or should they look for someone else? Very similar question that John the Baptist asked Jesus at another time. So Nicodemus comes to Jesus at nighttime. And so Nicodemus, to me, is a whole lot like us. Many of us are what we might call closet Christians. We kind of sneak out Jesus at nighttime. We're not sure we want the world to know that we believe in Jesus. We're not sure we want the world to understand that sometimes we might even pray if nobody's looking. We might even read the Bible in the middle of the night when nobody can see us. But we're not sure we want to make that public commitment to the world to know. The next thing Nicodemus wants to know is about being born again. How does one change? Nicodemus, being the literal scholar, says, how can one enter his mother's womb and be born again when he's old? And I'm sure Jesus is shaking his head saying, come on, Nicodemus, you're not that dumb. Get with it. So what does it mean to be born again? Or in the Greek, it could mean born again, or born anew, or born from above. And you'll see all of those various translations in different Bibles. But it's a transformation that takes place. Now, we Episcopalians are a little skittish to talk about being born again. We get images of charismatics or some people like that who begin speaking in tongues and swinging from the rafters on Sunday morning and doing all sorts of strange and wonderful things. And back in the 70s, during the charismatic renewal of the Episcopal Church, there was a lot of that went on. And I remember taking one of my deacons to a service in Cincinnati just so he could understand what it was. And when the guy next to him at the closing Eucharist began shouting and screaming in tongues and carrying on, Dick looked at me and said, what have you gotten me into? And so we're a little hesitant about talking about being renewed or born again. The other part of being born again that we are hesitant about is because it tends to create dichotomies within congregations of those who have been saved and those who haven't. We used to watch this happen in congregations. People would go to renewal weekends and come back and say, I've been saved. I have the gifts of the Holy Spirit. I can speak in tongues. I can prophesy. I'm going to heaven. And you don't have it and you ain't. And we literally saw churches split because of this. And I don't think that was what God had in mind. And I wonder, though, if when we read Nicodemus and we read this story and we talk about being born again, we sometimes step back from that brink because we're not sure that's where we want to go. We're not sure we want to be called into tongue speaking or prophesying or going down on the corner of Main and 4th and preaching to the street people. But is that what it means to be transformed and changed? I don't think that's exactly what it means. I think for us, and we may come to Christ like Nicodemus in the night, but I think Jesus invites us to come out of the closet, to come out and say, yeah, I'm a Christian. Yes, I believe in Jesus. Yes, I even pray occasionally. I go to church on a regular basis. I read my Bible. I really believe. So what does it mean to be born anew? What does it mean to be transformed? I think it simply means coming to that point where we're willing to take that chance to live our lives as Christians, to live out every day what it means for us to be followers of Christ. It doesn't mean for us to be perfect. It doesn't mean that, we have to give up drinking and, hanging out in bars and things like that. I mean, I've met some really good future Christians in bars. I've met some really good current Christians in bars. But it means that we live our lives as we think Jesus wants to. Not perfect, not goody two-shoes, but really living it out because of the way we treat one another. The way we treat one another with respect and dignity and caring, showing the world that we care about one another. I think this is what Nicodemus was trying to learn. This is what it meant when he came looking to Jesus that night. We know later on that Nicodemus paired up with Joseph of Arimathea after the crucifixion. And we know that Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea were two votes in favor of Jesus when he was on trial before the Sanhedrin. And we know that Nicodemus with Joseph